absolutely love this topic. I asked the question about how many people have ever felt like some nervousness or something like that around just sharing your exit plans with other people. And there were a lot that responded, "Psh, not at all. Like, I'm on my way out. Not at all. I don't have any problem." Some people that were just slightly more reserved. But the reality is, I think about my experiences and when I was in my transition, when I first started that transition, got serious and all right, I'm going to do this. I was slightly cautious. I was out there, I'd started the podcast. I never shied away from saying I didn't do anything. But I had moments in time where I'm like, okay, I want to lay a little bit low, even though I'm out there on social media everywhere. And the one thing it made me think about is so often there are some of you and some folks who want to lay so low and not let anybody hint in on anything, or are probably nervous that if your boss finds out, well, what do they think? And you're not ready. And what if you lose your job? Or what if they think you're not working or not doing whatever you're supposed to do? Here's the deal. When you're in a transition and you're serious about being in a transition, yes, you may need to lay low, especially depending on what your job is. But what you want to do is you want to still show up for yourself, because the reality is that once your transition is over, they have disappeared. They will have become a distant memory. So the time that you're taking during that transition and how you use it, you want to maximize it. So that's what I want to talk about today. And now I do have something for you guys today. I want to give you some things to walk away with. Now today, I've put some of these things and I put some extra ones in there into this audit. And I'll give you the link before we get off so you can download it. You can have it. You can go through yourself, see if you're on point, see if you're really taking advantage of what you need to do during the transition. All right? Okay, so let's get started on this. So one of the first points that I think you should be considering is when you think about LinkedIn, I want you to ask yourself this right now. If I was to go and I was to look at my LinkedIn profile, does it say so-and-so, insert your name? Let's just say project manager at corporation. If it says that, you're going to want to change it. And so here's the deal. You're going through a transition. It's also an identity shift as well. So while you may be used to carrying this particular title, like this is my job, this is the job I do, and that's the face that you're presenting to the world, you want to start getting a little bit more innovative in how you represent the value that you bring without being attached to the company. So there are a couple of examples, and I have these in the guide as well. But let me just read this off to you for an example. So the example I have in there is, let's say it says Candace Spears, project manager at Kohl's Corporation. Okay. What I would want to change that to is Candace Spears, strategic manager of business initiatives, project management expert, project and initiatives, expert in communication and project engagement, anything. See, the laying low part is it can still have something to do with your active role. So people don't think, oh, she's ran off and started a new job. Well, what is she up to and what's going on here? But what you want to do is start to separate your identity from being, I am this particular thing at this company, to I bring this value to the world. And that's regardless of if I'm at this company or if I've got my own. This is the value that I bring to the world. So start to get creative about your forward-facing face. Start to be creative about the face that you put out there in professional networks, and let it be the value that you bring, not the title that you have at a particular company. That is starting to step up and be bold. Okay, so that's the first thing that we're going to do, or the first thing that you're going to check for yourself, right? And this might be a fun discovery exercise for you too, especially if you've never thought about what is the value that I bring? Well, what is the value that I bring to this company? What is the value that I bring to the world? Those are very important questions. We talk very strongly about not only the value you bring, but what's the impact that you want to make in the world. And so even making changes like this begin to get your thought process in the mind of, all right, let me go ahead and step out there and who I really am. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go on to the next one. So one of the other ones, reading my keyboard, it's not operating here. So one of the other ones that I want to touch on is, so are you collecting feedback and testimonials about you? And notice I said about you and not necessarily about your business, your interaction in your business. When you are creating your business, right, you're the CEO of that business. And by default, because you are the CEO of that business, it's automatically assumed that there's this trickle down. What I mean is, if she must be good, the business must be worth a shot. If she must be good, what she's offering must be worth a shot. And so what you can do is during your transition, if you're doing things at work, you're doing things well, maybe you completed a project, whatever it is, I would start asking for feedback. And either you can do this multiple ways. So let me go the first way. I would start asking for feedback, and you can do this through email. How were your experiences with me on this project? And you can spin it in terms of, I really want to have feedback to do better in this area, or however you want to do it. But what you want to do is start to capture the essence of what makes you awesome and what you're bringing to things. Because the same you that brings that something to a work project is the same you that brings that something to your business. And so this is going to help you tremendously when you're first starting out and you don't necessarily have a lot of testimonials and things like that. Well, you may not have them for the offers that you've created, but you could have them for the value that you bring in general. And that impacts your business as well. And so there's lots of different ways to utilize that. So think about collecting feedback. You can do it in terms of LinkedIn recommendations as well. I do recommend that. I know that some folks get fearful of that. And part of that is because it's that same cycle. I don't want people to think get ready to change companies, because generally people ask for recommendations when they get ready to change or they get ready to leave and that type of thing. And if that is something that you're concerned about, ask past coworkers. Ask people from a different company, people who have known you well. And the key thing here is when you are soliciting that recommendation, be specific with what you want them to address. Hey, could you write me a recommendation or testimonial, however you want to phrase it, on our experiences working together on such and such a thing, or whatever it is. Collect that insight about you so that when you are fully out the door, it doesn't even have to be when you're fully out the door, because as you're building your business in the meantime, you want to have these things. Don't wait until you're out the door. But you will have this collection of people who are saying amazing things about the value that you bring in the world. So why not work with? She's able to bring this type of value, that type of thing. Okay? So that's a super important one. I have a total of 5 of these points, but I'm not going to cover all of them. You can grab the rest of them in the guide. And let me just see which other one I'd like to just talk about. So here's the other one I want to talk about really quickly. I went back and forth when I wrote this one, because on one hand, you don't necessarily want to do what I'm about to say. On the other hand, it can be very beneficial for you. This one is around raising your hand for small assignments. Very small assignments. And I recognize, as I'm saying this right now, there are probably some of you like, Candace, why would I do that? I want to be gone. I'm not interested in helping with doing anything else at that company. I need to focus on what I'm doing and getting the heck out of Dodge. So hear me out for a second. If there are small tasks or small assignments that could prove valuable as case studies for your business. They can prove that you delivered something, you did something, and it's very relevant to the business that you're interested in, then I would go for it. Again, keyword here is small. And I emphasize that, right? Because while you want to have that value and you want to be able to get as much of that sort of real world that you can take, you can apply, you can be off and running, you still don't want to drown yourself because you're in a transition. You're supposed to be spending, doing what you need to do at work, but still having a good focus on your business. So if you find some of that low-hanging fruit, or if you find a way to create something, that's the other thing. So open your eyes. If you find your way to create something that is relevant to the business that you want to do, and you can go ahead and say, hey, well, I can do this, blah, 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 and then turn around and use that as a case study. And I know you got to be careful with that sometimes, but use that as a case study. Why not? That's just going to help you in the building of your visibility and the building of your credibility for the business. I'm going to give you guys this link. Keyboard is not plugged in. I'm going to give you all this link where you can. So beboldinbusiness.gra.com. So we put this together, and you can go and you can download the Smart and Bold Visibility Audit. So it'll have some of the things that I just mentioned, and you'll see I talk about them a little bit more, give some examples, and there's a couple more in there too. So I really want you to, while you're in your transition, again, be smart and be bold. And it is an opportunity for you to be bold and be building and still be somewhat low-key all at the same time. All right. So I really want you guys to take advantage of that. You can go and grab it at the link that I just put in there. So that is all that I have for you all today. So you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you again soon.